Handoff, Adrian up the middle, room to the 20, cuts to the left to the 25, and Adrian's loose! He splits the defense! 50, 40, 30, goodbye, baby! Touchdown!
We bleed purple, and our bones are gold. Hear the horns coming out of our dome, behold. We are Minnesota Vikings fans. We love when a player scores, we roar, ignite the stands.
Hey, Vikings fans, you are listening to the Purple People podcast. We have a stacked show, better late than never, but we're here to talk about all kinds of Vikings stuff.
So sorry about the delay, guys. We've had so many issues with scheduling and technical problems that it's just been an absolute mess.
I blame daylight savings.
Sure.
Yeah, gotta blame
I
something.
blame Count Dracula.
Sure, why not? I'll go with that, too.
Because I'd like to welcome everyone to episode number 142 of the Purple People podcast. This one's titled Casselvania.
Casselvania!
But it's not castle like a castle.
It's
castle like Mr. Matt.
Matty Castle.
Because we're going to be talking about him in a little bit. Something went down with him. But before we get into the quick hits, you might have noticed that someone's missing.
Oh, that's right. We are missing Kyle Smith. He is not with us this week. He is okay. He just does not have internet access at the moment.
He is cooped up in a hotel, probably having more fun than either of us have ever dreamed of.
I don't know. We always have a ball when we do this podcast, so...
That's true. It's a good time. And we've got so much to talk about because of free agency. If we'd have done this a couple of days ago, we wouldn't have had nearly as much, but... Man, the quick hits aren't going to be going so quick because we're going to have a lot to say about each of these. So let's get rolling.
Extended quick hits.
The not-so-quick hits.
Hey, there you go. I like that. The not-so-quick hits. Adrian, I will not even finish that joke.
No, don't. But the first one is about Adrian Peterson and his trip to Houston that Spielman and Zimmer took to visit with Adrian. And there was supposed to be another trip that was going to happen up, I believe it was supposed to be today or yesterday. But apparently Adrian's dad made it up so that he could talk to the media or something. It's been an absolute mess, this whole thing with him and his dad and the agent and the scuffles at Combine. And I'm honestly just ready to throw in the towel on this whole Adrian Peterson thing.
It's weird, and I don't care until there is a resolution at this point. Hey, stuff's gonna happen between Vikings and Peterson, and when it gets done, I will be tickled pink.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And a trade went down, as we said. Mr. Matt Castle was shipped to Buffalo with Matt Castle and a 6th-round pick, went to Buffalo. And Minnesota got a 5th-rounder back. So they improved their spot in the draft one whole round there. Mm-hmm. I believe it's Tampa Bay's 5th-round selection that they got there.
Yeah, for
some reason, Buffalo owns that one.
As the world turns with NFL draft picks, it's fun to watch how this 5th-rounder that was formerly Tampa Bay went to Buffalo, goes to the Vikings, and then, spoiler alert, that 5th-round pick goes to Miami, and we end up with Mike Wallace.
That's true. Yeah. We had the quick hits here a little bit, but if we follow the chart there, that's where it goes. We don't know if that 5th-round pick is the one that came to us from Buffalo and Tampa, or it could be the Vikings' original 5th-round pick. Who knows?
But at some point, a 5th-round pick goes to Miami, and we end up with Mike Wallace, and bam, 7th-round pick, because Rick Spielman loves those late-round picks, right, Adam?
Sure does.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, the Vikings have their picks in rounds 1 through 5. I don't know if that 5th-round pick is the Vikings or that one from Tampa Bay, like I said earlier. And they have 2 7th-rounders. Essentially, they traded a 6th-round pick for a 7th-round pick and got Mike Wallace.
And shipped away Matt Castle.
Well, Castle was going to go anyway.
Yeah, you're right. He was.
The fact that they got anything for him really says a lot about the quarterback market.
Yeah, exactly. This whole maneuvering thing right here of Castle and 5th-rounders and extra 7th-rounders and stuff, this really goes to show why I want a jersey that says Spielman on the back of it, because Rick Spielman is a mad scientist, and I love watching him manipulate and do things. And I know a lot of people were getting really worked up on, like, the first couple hours of free agency when every other team was so active and the Vikings were not. But that's not our MO. It's like we're gonna wait back a little bit, and then Rick is gonna be a mad scientist and do all this awesome stuff like what he's doing right now. And it's just so much fun to watch. I really like it.
Now, I'm still on the fence a little bit about whether or not I like this Mike Wallace trade. I know that Mike Wallace has a lot of great talent and he can stretch a field, but he also has an attitude problem and brings a really big salary with him to Minnesota. So I'm not sure how to feel about all that. If he comes and he's a model citizen and is a good teammate and he makes plays, I'm sure I'll change my tune really quick.
I always want to believe the best of any scenario for the Vikings. I always want to give them the benefit of the doubt. So I'm going to say that, hey, we have the coaches in place. I'm talking about Mike Zimmer here, who's going to be like, I'm not going to take any of your BS, Mike Wallace. So you got an attitude, you can knock it off. And then he's going to, like, spit some chew down on the ground after that statement. And I also feel like with the locker room, I know we've got a young locker room, but we have good veterans in place, like your Chad Greenways or your Greg Jennings,
Sure.
who can step in and be like, "Hey, Mike," and then slap him upside the back of the head and be like, "Knock it off!" Like, we don't do that in Minnesota, and so
No.
you didn't really see these problems from him when he was with Pittsburgh, where he had veteran guys and a strong head coach in place. And I kind of feel like he's coming into a good situation, even with Teddy, where Teddy might be a young player, but Teddy, I feel like, is a leader already on this team, and he will get respect from Mike Wallace.
I really worry about the fits that he threw on the sidelines and
Me too.
the things that happened down there in Miami. I know that the pick itself is so low round that the risk is almost non-existent,
Yeah.
but it's the financial part that worries me.
I'm worried about him just not wanting to even come here in the first place, because you remember that
He could have came here in free agency, yeah.
Yeah, Vikings offered him more money the first time around, and he went to Miami supposedly because, hey, he wanted to play in nice weather. What if he just doesn't even want to fly up to Minnesota? And he's like, I'm going on strike, or whatever. I feel like once we actually get him in the facility and the players, coaches, whatever, start talking to him, I think they can smooth it out and everything will be fine. But it has the...
Last thing the Vikings need is another player potentially holding out.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, the last thing we need is Percy Harvin round 2, right?
Or whatever this Adrian Peterson thing's going on.
That as well. But this has the potential to go volatile, and dear Lord, please don't do that. We don't...
This could be a massive success, too.
Yeah, it could. Like, I'm really hoping
he can take the top off defenses, stretch the field, open up the run game. Mike Wallace does have the talent to do that.
Mm-hmm. Lots of people, really quick, and then we'll move on from Mike Wallace. Lots of people seem to think that this spells the end for Greg Jennings.
But we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Oh, you're right. You are right. So save that spot, that idea for a little bit, and let's move on to Sean Hill.
Absolutely. Now, the Vikings, they traded away Matt Castle, like we said earlier. Mm-hmm. Christian Ponder got a shot with a one-year deal over in Oakland. I'd like to wish him the best of luck there. He was always a class act in Minnesota. Things might not have worked out here, but still, hey, I wish him the best in whatever he chooses to try to do.
Yeah, same here too. I know I've made a lot of jokes about Ponder on the show in the past, but really, he was nothing but a class act here for the Vikings. He could have complained, he could have bitched, but he didn't do it. And seriously, that's like a smart move for the Raiders to do. Like, he's a young player. He's been around the league. He's been on a team that's went to the playoffs, and that's a good experience to bring in. And Christian is a smart guy, and he can help them develop David Carr a little bit, and so that's good for him. I hope that he can...
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr. Did I say David?
You did.
Yeah, I did. Well, there you go. I still can't tell them apart, but yeah, it's a good move for the Raiders there, I think.
Take a look at that draft class, though, that Christian
Ugh,
Ponder was in.
I don't want to.
I mean, Ponder is backing up Derek Carr now.
Hmm.
Blaine Gabbert is backing up Colin Kaepernick. Jake Locker retired.
And he's retired. Although he played for the Titans, I would retire if I played for the Titans as well.
Remember the Titans? I don't
No,
remember.
no one. Vince Young doesn't want to remember the Titans.
Oh. But at least the Vikings went out and they got themselves a backup quarterback in Sean Hill. He's a veteran. He's old. He's been to Minnesota before. He knows the drill. He's going to mentor Teddy. They've already talked. Things are working out good there. I'm very positive about this Sean Hill pickup. Excited about it.
I wouldn't say I'm excited for
I'm
Sean Hill.
thrilled.
I mean, I'm not excited or thrilled to have Sean Hill in Minnesota, but I totally understand it. Like, he fills that veteran role that you need to have on the team. And he's a smart guy. He's been in the league for how long, Adam? 14
Long time.
seasons? I want to say 14 seasons. So that means he's got to be smart, and he's got to have the ability to pick up offenses, and that's good to have around Teddy. So
I think
I'm
it's
fine.
been 9 seasons, actually.
9? Okay, well,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, 4 years with Detroit, 3 with San Francisco, and 1 with each Minnesota and St. Louis.
He was with the team like 3 uniform changes ago. That's how long it was since Sean Hill was here the first time.
2005.
Yep.
Man, it's nice to have him back. I've been seeing things about, apparently there's this Tory guy. I don't know who he is. He's some baseball guy. And then there's Kevin Garnett coming back to the Timberwolves.
Oh, yeah, I love KG.
Sean Hill coming back to the Vikings. And
Not quite
just
the same.
all this Minnesota renaissance happening.
Maybe not quite the fanfare for Sean Hill is what Kevin Garnett got for the Timberwolves, but you know.
I'm just saying, it's good to see that Minnesota folk coming back home. That's what I like to see.
Hey, I mean, I don't mean to rag on Matt Castle, but is it really that much of a downgrade from Matt Castle?
No.
No, not really. So
I think they're actually quite similar players, and for the price difference that Sean Hill brings, it's definitely pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. The Vikings brought back defensive tackle Tom Johnson on a 3-year deal worth $7 million. I have to admit, I thought Tom Johnson was going to get quite a bit more than that.
I thought so too. This is your under-the-radar signing of the offseason so far for the Vikings. Tom Johnson was a guy that came seemingly out of nowhere. Who was Tom Johnson last year? None of us knew. But he comes on, and Mike Zimmer does what he does best, and that's get players to play to their full potential. And Tom Johnson was able to capitalize, turn it into a deal that is a good deal for him, because I will never have $7 million in 3 years. So that is pretty sweet, I would say, and that's a good cap-friendly number for the team as well, too.
Yeah, he wanted a multi-year deal with the team, and from what I understand, he actually did want to stay in Minnesota from the reports that I've been reading.
Oh.
So it's cool to see that. And another player that wanted to stay in Minnesota that I don't see on my list anymore. Oh, yeah, there he is. Guard center, Joe Berger.
Joe Berger.
Signed a 2-year deal at his age. I was kind of surprised that his deal was as little as it was, too. I don't have the numbers there in front of me. But, again, it was a situation where I thought he'd fetch more on the open market. But he's back in Minnesota on a cheaper deal.
I think Joe Berger thought that he was going to get more on the open market than what he did. There seemed to be, depending on how much you want to believe on Twitter, there was kind of a sticking point over his contract, is that he wanted more starter money, and the Vikings were still viewing him as more backup, rotational guy. Ultimately, they were able to work out this 2-year deal that must have kept everyone happy, so, hey, I'm glad to have Joe back on the team. I'm a fan of his.
Yeah, Berger was up hunting in my neck of the woods up here when he found out that the Vikings had agreed to the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool to have a local guy up here that's been doing real well and on the Minnesota Vikings. So congratulations, Joe Berger.
You know who else we got to stay on a 1-year contract, Adam?
Who's that?
That would be our long snapper, Colin Loeffler, signed a 1-year contract extension with the Minnesota Vikings, proving once again that nobody really knows how to do a draft profile for a long snapper.
No,
so
they don't.
Just sign the guy you already have.
I have to admit, I have no idea how to scout a long snapper.
I don't even.
They don't long snap at the combine.
They don't. And you can't look on YouTube and find long snapper highlights.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know how you do it, but I'm really glad to have him back. Some stupid people on Twitter were like, he ranks at the bottom of long snappers in the NFL. Well, who gives a shit? I mean, I'm perfectly honest. Like, he's a great guy to
How do
have
you
on
rank
the
a
team.
long snapper? He doesn't botch snaps. He doesn't throw over other people's heads. He does fine.
I have no clue, but remember what was that, like 2 or 3 seasons ago where he got hurt and we had to bring in the replacement long snapper and he did absolutely horrible?
Oh yeah. I remember a Raiders game where their long snapper went down and they didn't have a backup on the roster. And it resulted in several turnovers and terrible field position. And I'm not going to say that it caused the Raiders to lose the game because, well...
Lots of things caused Raiders to lose the game.
But, yeah,
soon,
it definitely didn't help.
Soon you will be able to say Christian Ponder caused the Raiders to lose a game. I am kidding. I can't help it, Adam. I had to say that. I am still vying for Cullen before he retires. We got 1 more year to do it, North Turner. He played tight end. Can we please give him 1 snap down in the red zone as a tight end? No one will expect it coming. That's
True.
Easy touchdown. Just let Teddy do it. Just preseason game number 4. Can we just do it? Can we just get him a touchdown? I want to see that happen.
And our last Minnesota signing, Matt Asiata coming back to Minnesota on a deal worth less than $1 million, but with a ton of incentives.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all know that Matt Asiata is a touchdown machine. And when he gets scoring touchdowns, he don't stop.
Nah, he doesn't. How many did he have last year? Like 9?
Yeah.
That's a lot of touchdowns. You can rag on Asiata for yards per carry, blah, 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 blah. The guy scores touchdowns. So, hey, I am fine. And he doesn't get in trouble either. I have yet to hear a news story about Matt Asiata doing this, that, or the other thing. So, hey.
Those incentives may be hard to reach, though, because he's got Adrian Peterson in front of him on the depth chart right now.
Maybe.
He's got Jerick McKinnon in front of him on the depth chart right now. And he's got a new blocker in front of him. Maybe not new, but not the usual starters. Not Jerome Felton anymore, because Jerome Felton is a member of the Buffalo Bills.
I am not surprised at all that Rex Ryan would go sign him, the best fullback in the NFL, in Jerome Felton. And I wish him nothing but the best in Buffalo. Wish he could have stayed in Minnesota. Don't understand why they didn't utilize him as much as they could have last season. So, more power to him. I hope that he is able to just have another fantastic Pro Bowl year for the Bills.
In Buffalo this year, Jerome Felton is going to be lead blocking for LaShawn McCoy, holding back the pass rush for Matt Castle, trying to buy time for him to find Percy Harvin.
Some of this sound familiar because that's a lot of Vikings.
That is quite a few. And there's even a tight end in there somewhere.
Marquise Gray is out there, too. We spent some time with. Golden Gopher, too, correct?
That is true. He sure was.
Yep.
And the only other thing that happened in free agency as far as Vikings or former Vikings is Minnesota lost their starting middle linebacker, Jasper Brinkley, heading down to Dallas for 2 years.
This is actually news to me. I legitimately did not know that he had signed with the Cowboys, Adam.
Well, I did not know that.
Well, yeah, there you go. Jasper, boy, I wish he could have stayed around longer than a season, because I like Jasper Brinkley.
He's a good thumper, a good 2-down linebacker.
He is, and he's a good backup rotational guy. Like, I like to have guys like Jasper Brinkley on the roster. Not necessarily as an every down player, but... so yeah, I wish him the best in Dallas. I wonder if that is a bit of a tip to the old hat as to what Mike Zimmer is thinking for the draft.
You should hear people on Twitter talking about their cult favorites at middle linebacker.
Oh,
Oh, they're doing it because Audie Cole's going to take it. Then you got the other people. No way, it's Michael Maudy. He's ready.
I love both those guys. Neither of those guys are starters in the NFL, and that's gonna piss some people off. I know that will. I am not knocking on either of them, but
Right now,
they
neither of them have shown
they have
really
not
that
shown
that
enough
ability.
consistency. And
No.
I know you're gonna whoa, but they haven't been given enough of an opportunity to do that. Well,
Yeah, that's not to say they can't do the job.
I'm just saying
Just say I'm not
right
sure they're
now,
ready.
I am not positive that either of those are. And I really like both those guys as well, too.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I like a lot of the young linebackers. I'm interested in what Gerald Hodges can do too.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot of interesting guys on the team that you just don't quite know what exactly their role is going to be moving forward with the Vikings. You know that?
Absolutely, I agree totally. And speaking of that, that goes right into our social media question from Clint Fredrickson on Twitter. He says, "What do you think Minnesota's going to do with Greg Jennings?"
What are we going to do with Greg Jennings? Well, if you were to listen to Twitter, which I'm probably pretty glad the Vikings don't, they're going to say, well, we got Mike Wallace, so Greg Jennings, you can go to the curb. We don't need you anymore.
Yeah,
I don't
apparently
say you
Vikings
do that
fans
statement.
want Greg Jennings traded away, out of Minnesota. That's what they want. They want him gone. They want that cap space gone. For what? I don't know. I mean, if the Vikings whiffed on the guards that they were after, and right now they've got Michael Johnson visiting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are guys that they're solid guys. And I don't really understand what that cap space is going to do right now because Minnesota's going to be looking to lock down some guys. And if they wanted to conserve the cap, they wouldn't have traded for a guy like Mike Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if they're going to approach Greg Jennings about a restructure or pay cut because I don't think that's a very good idea. I don't know if they're going to do the same thing with a guy like Chad Greenway, which could be I understand if that happens with Chad Greenway.
Chad is a very popular player that people throw around as to needing to take a pay cut.
I love the guy, I do. I've got his jersey, I wear it proudly, and I understand that he misses a lot of tackles. People throw that around plenty on Twitter.
Oh,
but he's still a guy that is a veteran on this team, and he's helping a lot of guys learn. Sure, he's slowed down a bit, but what can you do?
I always say when people say Chad Greenway misses tackles, I go, that's because no one else on the team for the past couple seasons was in position to do anything. So Chad Greenway was having to clean up Leslie Frazier's mess, when a mess of a defense, and still, we're a young team. We had guys that were out of position quite frequently, and Chad's having to clean up other people's mess. Greg Jennings, look, let me tell you why you don't get rid of Greg Jennings, because you just brought in Mike Wallace, who is a guy that we just talked about earlier in the show. Hey, he might be a little bit of a basket case. Might be a little bit of a cancer in the locker room.
I wouldn't use that word.
We don't quite know what exactly he's going to be doing from time to time.
That's
so
true.
We want to have the veteran leader, Greg Jennings, who can be like Mike Wallace. Shut up. Show up on time. This is how we do stuff in Minnesota. This is how you be a pro. Like, this is what you're going to do.
This is the same Greg Jennings who led the team in receptions and yards, touchdowns, first down catches. This is that Greg Jennings they're talking about, right?
Yes, this is that Greg Jennings.
Okay, I was just making sure because I didn't know if we were talking about a different Greg Jennings that sucked.
No, this is also the same Greg Jennings who, to the best of my knowledge, has never been a distraction to the team, or has gotten in trouble with the law recently as well either. So by all means, let's keep this guy around for the remainder of his contract with the Minnesota.
Yeah, what you got to think is, I know you guys think complement pieces. You're like, oh, he can stretch the field. Stretch the field for what? The underneath guy? And who's the underneath guy going to be? The reliable veteran wide receiver that Teddy Bridgewater went to all last season? It's going to be Greg Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Wallace, part of the reason he's there is to help out guys like Greg Jennings and Kyle Rudolph to open up those passes underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, every once in a while there's going to be a long bomb touchdown and Mike Wallace, and everybody's going to be like, yeah, Mike Wallace
Mike
rules,
Wallace,
yeah. And that's cool. I love it. But it's more about picking up first downs and stuff, too. Touchdowns are great. They get points on the board, and that's what you want in the end. And these two guys will complement each other so well that hopefully it'll make things a lot easier on Teddy.
Teddy's game, from what we've seen last year, Adam, is more about smart throws and checkdowns and less about, I'm going to stand back there and just wing it down the field and just wing it
his
into
strength
double,
is those
triple
mid-range
coverage.
throws, just good accuracy.
So
that's his strength.
that's why, exactly, that's why it is important to have a guy like Greg Jennings who can be your kind of underneath sidelines, move the chains. Greg made some incredibly tough catches towards the sidelines to move the chains for Teddy last year, and
Sure did.
I don't think you don't want to get rid of that. You don't want to get rid of that safety net for Teddy Bridgewater because it doesn't.
I know that his salary looks high, and I know that the same thing goes for Mike Wallace. That salary looks high.
Yeah.
But
I think
to cut a player like Jennings, to cut him right now, you'd be dealing with a lot of dead money.
Mm-hmm.
And try to trade him, you're not going to get any value close to what he's worth. So I know it's easy to say, oh, get rid of him. But it's really not that easy. If you know what I mean.
I hear ya, Adam.
All right, the last thing we're going to do before we say sayonara for this episode is we're going to talk about the team needs a quarterback because really right now there's only one position there that's kind of got a question mark on it because Teddy Bridgewater should be inked in as the starter.
Forever.
Sean Hill should be inked in as the starter beneath the starter.
The backup.
Known as the backup.
The backup starter. That was
the backup starter.
I love the way you just said that.
He's a starter if the starter can't start. But then we got that QB3.
For the next 2 years. He is the starter.
The QB3 right now is Pat Devlin. Now, the Vikings could look to a different promising young guy and look to keep Pat Devlin on the practice squad, or they might keep Pat Devlin as their quarterback 3 and not have a quarterback on the practice squad. Who knows? But right now, I'm not really sure if the team is going to be out looking for a high-round draft pick of a quarterback, because I doubt that's the case. If Minnesota is going to pick up a quarterback, it's going to be some sort of project quarterback, similar to Pat Devlin, maybe someone with a little bit more talent if they look to the draft, someone with more potential. If it's a free agent that they're looking at, maybe someone's a little more established in case, something happens and the domino effect happens. Because we've seen in Minnesota that sometimes, like last season when a guy like Greg Jennings was catching passes from 3 different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It happens. I mean, the Vikings have seen seasons where the season before, I believe it was, where there was 4 different quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
There's finally that continuity in Minnesota. They know the pecking order. The only question is what name is going to be in the 3rd spot and maybe the 4th spot. So I don't know. Right now, I'm not willing to throw names out there for a 4th spot because I'm not sure that I'd bring in a 4th guy right off the bat. I'd say that when I'm not going to say when. I'm sorry about when. If Teddy Bridgewater goes down, not when, not when. If. That is when the Vikings will look to bring in a guy to slide into practice squad and notch Pat Devlin up 1. And I think that is when that'll happen. So right now I think that the team's going to be fine going forward with 3. And I don't see a whole lot of changes happening. But like I said, a 4th is possible.
Team needs quarterback. Let's go best case scenario here, Adam. Teddy Bridgewater.
Trade Sean Hill for Andrew Luck.
Let's go a bit more realistic
Oh.
best case scenario.
Okay.
Teddy Bridgewater, 100% healthy, goes to the Pro Bowl, looks fantastic.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That would be awesome, and that will hopefully happen. Sean Hill is your number 2 veteran guy, looks good in preseason. Oh, reliable.
Yeah.
Oh, reliable, Sean.
Hopefully, the only highlights we see of Sean Hill this year are the same highlights we saw his rookie year, coming in and taking a couple knees.
Yeah. If even that, because in my opinion, Teddy will have earned the honor to take the knee at the end of the game.
Well, to be fair, too, Sean Hill's a little old. Those knees, I don't know.
Yeah, those maybe arthritis in those knees are getting to him.
We don't mean it, Sean Hill. We love you. We're sure your knees are fine.
Yeah, well, you never know. He looked like he was about 45 in the videos on Vikings.
Yeah, the press conference, he looked a little rough.
He looked like a little out of shape to me, but I digress. And then I'm going to say that the Vikings could actually roll with 2 quarterbacks on the roster, which is the hip new thing for teams to do in the NFL to save that roster spot for another area on the team for corner or wide receiver or tackle or guard or whatever.
Oh, definitely. They could roll with 2 on the 53 and bump Pat Devlin down to the practice
Yeah,
squad.
we'll keep Pat Devlin on the practice squad. Or someone, maybe not Pat Devlin, but someone on the practice squad.
Sure.
That you could call up in case of emergency. And then I would say I do not expect them to draft a quarterback at all.
I wouldn't expect it.
That don't make any sense to me. What you will see the Vikings do is immediately after the draft is over, there's that period where teams just have like a frenzy.
Oh, yeah, the priority free agents.
The priority free agents. You have that frenzy period of signing training camp bodies. Vikings traditionally have always carried 4 quarterbacks into Mankato, and that is because you want to have your quarterback 3 and 4 that you can give reps with your other kind of lesser receivers and stuff. You got to have those arms for training camp.
Yeah, let's call them what they are. They're camp bodies.
They're camp bodies. So you will sign a quarterback 4 that's going to be a camp body that everybody knows is not going to make it out of Mankato.
Right.
But you always have that. So you will have your quarterback 3 and quarterback 4. But don't expect the team to be drafting them, and don't expect them to really be anyone that you've really ever heard of.
Yeah, unless there's a wicked fall in the draft and the best player available when the Vikings pick late in the draft is a quarterback, then yeah, you'll probably see them pull the trigger.
Because, hey, we do have a quarterback guru in North Turner who could maybe look at a late round, 7th round pick and go, I can work with him, bring him in, maybe I can develop more of a long-term backup, but that's just kind of weird.
Yeah, but like Mr. West said, I don't see
Vikings
actively pursuing a quarterback.
If anything, I'm looking at that extra 7th round pick that we got from Mike Wallace, and I'm calling Cleveland, and I'm going, Johnny Manziel's worthless for you guys. You don't know what to do with him. We'll give you a 7th round draft pick. I'm kidding, Adam. You got so quiet right there. I'm kidding.
I was actually just waiting to see. I was like, okay, where is he going with this? What is going on?
Oh, there was someone out there who was hearing that going, 7th round pick for Manziel?
Yeah, there's someone that had their arms crossed and was nodding like, yeah, that's a great idea. But Johnny Manziel exited rehab today after, I believe it was 6 weeks.
Hey,
we can't.
Congratulations
on finishing the program, man.
Precisely. I want him to get it together and look good.
Absolutely.
Yep. Play good.
I try not to just wish hate and failure on anyone because I know Twitter can be that way at times, just knocking people down. But these are real people, and they are their real lives and their livelihoods. Mm-hmm. And I know that Johnny Manziel's stinking rich already because of his family and everything. But if he has the passion to play football and he wants to do that for a living and help provide his family down the road with that, that's awesome. And I wish the best for him on it.
Hey,
I really do.
The best thing that ever could have happened to the Minnesota Vikings was the media circus known as Johnny Manziel that got the hype train rolling for him and got him drafted way too early from where he should have been. Because you know what that gave us? That gave us Teddy Bridgewater the better
Actually, I'm going to say
quarterback.
pro days are what happened.
Yeah, you're
Johnny
right.
Manziel coming out and throwing in pads at his pro day. And everybody was like, oh, he's throwing in pads. Oh, my God. This is
That
awesome.
that's
Nobody does
genius.
this. And then Teddy Bridgewater comes out and he has less equipment than usual because he doesn't have his gloves. And
It's
everybody's like, oh, he's all over the place. He can't throw. Little baby hands. Can't hold onto a football. Skinny knees.
I have 2 points I would like to make really quick about Teddy's pro day. For number one, do you think Rick Spielman pulled Teddy off to the side and was like, look, if you were to just, have a bad pro day and you were to slide in the draft, I guarantee you we
But
will trade up. We
could you
will.
imagine the beginning of that story? Listen, we're not going to take you with our first pick. We kind of
but,
have somebody else in mind here.
but,
That's the part that would sting. If I were
yeah,
Teddy Bridgewater there, I'd be like,
yeah,
uh,
yeah, okay. But I'm kidding about that part. But for number two, it's really interesting how almost immediately after the Teddy had his bad, not immediately afterward, the season preceding Teddy's bad pro day, where Teddy came out and looked quite good. Marcus Mariota had his bad pro day here, what was it, a couple days ago, and now all of a sudden, all these experts who were knocking Teddy are looking at him and going, well, but yeah, it was just a pro day, and we've seen what
right?
Teddy Bridgewater did, so maybe you shouldn't read too much into it.
Teddy has changed the way that some analysts
Yep,
have looked at players and how much stock they put into things like the pro day and the combine.
he
It's
really
absolutely
has.
fantastic.
And it's funny because you go back and you look at some of these players who have had phenomenal pro days. You look at Jamarcus Russell had the best pro day of any quarterback in the history of quarterbacks. My lord, at one point he got down on his knees and he threw a pass from midfield into the end zone.
Oh yeah, 70 yards on his knees.
On his knees! And that was Jamarcus Russell, ladies and gentlemen. And do pro days really matter? I think we've said this for a long time. No. Watch the
Well,
game. Watch
some
the
parts of it, but
well.
not the throwing on the field. If you want to see him throw, watch tape.
Watch tape. Yeah. Watch the tape. The interview process is the important part
Yes.
when it comes to pro days. And guess what? We don't get to see that.
No. That's the part I'd love to see. Especially after all the stuff that I was reading about it going on, like at some of those pro day questionings for the Cowboys and other teams when they were talking to Des Bryant. If you remember that, it was absolutely disgusting, some of the stuff they asked him. But you can Google that if you feel the need to.
Yeah, as much as I would love to see the interview process part of it, that is totally one of those things that you gotta stay behind closed doors because you gotta have 100% honest answers from
Right.
those kids coming out, and it's just it.
All right, but on that note, I think that we're all right. I think we're good to go. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, we could talk for probably another hour and a half, but at some point we have to wrap up this podcast.
That's true. We've talked about so many different moves, some players that some people think are on the fringe, but probably aren't. And we've talked about the needs at quarterback, and we even went a little bit into some pro day stuff. So I hope that we were able to encompass everything that happened over the last week and a half or so
Mhm.
because of how late we were with the show, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, me
But
too. We just had all kinds of weird stuff that came up this week.
next week's show, I'm not sure if we're going to try to get it out on the same time because there won't be much going on in between. We might try to slide it back a day or two so we got a little bit more information.
We'll
But
see.
we
We
will
will
have a
see.
show for you next week. Don't worry about that.
Kyle
So
Smith will
remember,
be back.
I
Hopefully.
hope so.
We hope. We hope. We wish.
Check us out on the Facebook, Purple People Podcast, the Twitter, Purple People Pod, and remember, stay classy, Minnesota.